You ready?
Yes, sir. Yeah, go for
Your hair all sorted under there?
it.
Hi, my name's Will and welcome to the Distorted Transmission for today. Today's interview is a little different, crossing the boundaries of genres like the show has never seen before. Breakbeat Grindcore group Bloodbox. How's things?
Hello. Well, I'm very good, thank you. Yeah.
Is it warm in that helmet?
Yeah. Yes, but it's also pretty warm in Wellington. Surprise, surprise, so fuck yeah, it's been a good week this week, yeah.
Right, let's start with intros. Who's in the band and what are their roles?
My name's Megalith X. I make all the music. I do all the programming. I conceive kind of all the ideas and I come up with some of the lyrics. I record everything. I guess I'm the tyrant or mastermind, as you might call it. There's S03, who's my mate who lives in the Northland. He's one of the vocalists. He's integral to the band. He and I have been in this band for nearly 24 years, and we were in another band before this. Like, he and I have the same understanding of extremity, what we want. His lyrical content is absolutely stellar. He's angry as fuck, so he's got lots of energy. And just recently, we added this year a woman called Sacris Diath, who's an incredible vocalist. She used to be in Skuldum. And if you've ever heard her performing in there, her vocals are just fucking out of this world. She adds a whole nother texture, sonically, and also ideas. So yeah, 3-piece, but when we play live, it's all just coming out of either a USB or off of a hard drive. So the audio's all been pre-made. And vocally, we just kind of sing over top of that. But it's still kind of pretty live, like it's structured and ordered, but there's also this chaoticness that comes with the live performance.
Do you guys actually play any of the instruments that you're sampling, or do you just take it from other things?
I used to be a drummer for a long time. I used to play bass for a long time, but most of the music on the recordings that I make is all sampled or stolen. I record off various sources, predominantly vinyl or cassette. So Zenneborg, he often sources material for me, like weird guitar sounds, or he's got his ear a bit closer to the ground what he used to for the last 20 years. So he would always send me tapes of like just crazy sounds and noises, and I've still got them. I've got over 120 gig of samples. So yeah, it all gurgles around inside my head. And when I start mucking around with a new sound, then other things go, oh, I've got this other sound that might go with it or augment it or push it.
I read your bio and press release, but my memory is shit and most of the information fell out of my head moments later. I was also not in New Zealand between 98 and 2012. So could you briefly cover the history of the band from 2002 to perhaps the hiatus in 2013?
We were in a band called Vexed up to 99. And then the other vocalists and I moved to the UK and then Ireland for 2 or 3 years. And the band was formed then out of a desire to keep playing, but we didn't have access to those guys to play with. So I made it all on this thing. It's like a battery operated toy sampler that I bought for £50 in London, and 2 albums were made on this thing in its entirety. And we used to play with it as well, play live, which is kind of crazy, but you do these things. And then to New Zealand in 2003. We had released a demo by then, and we'd had a bit of hype, and we had friends that were bands, and we gigged around Auckland. We nearly did a show in Sydney, but that got canned, and we played a few gigs in Wellington. But then by about 2004, I'd kind of lost interest in guitar music, to be honest with you.
Right.
Then I also went to university and teachers college, and my energy moved somewhere else for 5 years. We had a brief kind of renaissance in 2012 and 2013. We played Fang Fest in Auckland. There was 2 of them, I think, at Whammy Bar. They were like punk weekenders. And again, just obliterated. It was so bizarre that music we had made 12 years earlier still completely blew people's fucking minds. It was lo-fi as fuck. You know, this thing samples at 22 kilohertz. You know, like it's pretty crunchy. It's pretty fucked. It's a 16-bit machine at 22K. It's a bit raw. Yeah, but then again, I became a teacher, and I just kind of backed off. And the other vocalist, he was busy being a dad, having kids. So life took over, music took a back seat. But no, you know, now the return, which I'm sure you're going to ask about. Well,
that was the next question, actually. You know, what was the cause of this sort of sudden resurgence? Almost about 7 or 8 years later, just boom.
I started listening to metal again in 2019. I had this real arrogance, like a lot of older metalers tend to do, where it's like, oh, you've heard it all, you know, blah, blah, you know, there's no band's as good as fucking Slayer in 86 or whatever, or whoever your band is, you know. And then I started listening to modern bands, and I was like, oh, fuck, there's some really good shit going on. And so I got back into metal and discovered all of the new bands that are making modern music. And I heard that there was still nothing that sounded like the music that we had made 20 years earlier. Right. It still doesn't exist. Like, there's people that are teetering on it or hovering around it, but it's not. And I was like, okay, I've actually got a door now. You know, I've got technology. I've been making other digital music for 10 years. I've got knowledge, and I was going to apply it back to this and make something more fucking ferocious and even more intense, you know, because the internet, you know, you can Bandcamp, YouTube, you know, you can make this stuff, and you know yourself, over time, people find it, and your audience is there. Like, back in the 90s, when we were playing in New Zealand, we would play in front of 50 people, their minds would be blown, and they'd just walk away and they go, fuck, that shit was crazy. And that's about it. Like, it didn't really go anywhere else, you know? Sure. But now you've got the internet, and it's like, you know, you can get booked to play. New Zealand bands get booked to play all European and international tours, which is fucking amazing. And you can do that. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to go back to it. I'm going to make music that still doesn't exist, that I want to hear, because I've got a short fucking attention span, you know. So 1 minute songs is like a long song for me. 1 minute 40 is like, oh, getting a bit long. You know, 2 minutes is like, hey, it's almost too long.
I guess it's because this kind of music doesn't really fall into the sort of the verse, chorus thing. So you can't just throw an extra sort of chorus at the end, and there's no guitar solo or anything to kind of fill it out. So it's basically just, you know, balls to the wall for a couple of minutes, and then that's it. It's everything all at once. So it has to be short.
You're gonna laugh, but I'm working on another EP, and I'm going to try and actually take stuff out of it. You know, I'm going to try and make it less intense, but more intense, because there's going to be less going on.
More for the grindcore angle, because some grindcore songs are, you know, 10 seconds long. So
that's a bit much. Like, people are probably going to jump on me for saying this, but I like music that's musical. I love music that has intensity and ferocity, but also has to have some kind of musicality about it. And you might laugh considering the music I make, but some stuff is just short for shortness sake, or extreme for extreme's sake, and it's not really doing anything. So, yeah.
Well, it's kind of like that sort of early 90s German hardcore that was just doom, 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 doom.
Fuck yeah.
It's great, but like, you know, 3 minutes in, you're like, fucking stop. Do something else.
Yeah, there's only so many times you can hear the word cocksucker or motherfucker until it gets really boring, you know? And after about half an hour, you're like, okay, here we go. Here's another one. Gabba, yeah, I was really into that. And some of our early music definitely came for that. But yeah, I like to have movement, sonic kind of movement variation to keep myself interested, you know.
Posthuman Disorder dropped in August 2022. How has the response been?
I got a European promoter, which you're a publicist, which you can buy their services for X amount of time. And he was really fantastic at getting the video pushed, at getting lots of reviews. We got crazy reviews from the weirdest places, and really comments that they probably thought were quite damning. And I was like, yeah, that sounds fucking awesome. Like, they totally got it. And we got a lot of attention that way. The video got a couple of thousand views in a few weeks, which is kind of amazing. But album sales has not really. It's rare. I can name the people that have bought it, you know, because I know them, because they're my friends, you know. They're like my 20 friends that I know, and a couple of random people from Germany and America that have bought from the internet. But at the same time, I get it, you know, like there's so much music and digital. I mean, we've got a physical product of a tape, but, you know, tape is a bit niche. And yeah, I hear about new bands, 20 bands every fucking day. So it's kind of intense. I'm not upset or worried about any of that, because for me, again, it's like putting it out into the world and your audience will find it.
That was the thing for me with Bloodbox, because, you know, I also hear a lot of music all the time, and then I heard you guys, and you guys are so different that you really stuck out. So even though there is a sea of bands out there, you're really sort of bobbing on your own, and you've got quite a unique sound that you could really turn into something really, really, you know, like I don't know if successful is the word, but it's like it could spread, you know.
My aim is to play like that Obscene Extreme Festival in like 3 years' time or something, you know, like that would be like my target. If I got the opportunity to do something like that on a global scale, then I would be like, I could die happy, like, because it would vindicate my idea about the music. But sadly, though, the fact that we are so different means that people don't really, for you it sticks out because you've got a good ear and you're listening to lots of stuff like critically, but because we're quite different, it doesn't fit into lots of things, so it's quite hard for it to fall into. It's not death metal, it's not grindcore, and I'm not knocking any of that stuff because I love all that stuff, so it has been a little bit difficult. But again, I think people will find it. I think the video was important, which is why I'm working on making another video, because that visual, for me, I learn about bands from YouTube, and then I go to the Bandcamp. I don't use Spotify. I don't do any of that stuff, which call me a dinosaur or whatever, but that's just how I listen to music. And so visuals are really important.
Back when Prodigy were a thing, sort of around 1990, like that guy Liam wasn't really getting anywhere. He was playing a lot of shows, wasn't getting any traction, and then he sort of hired a couple of dancers, and then next minute he was international. So image and the sort of the visual aspect of the music really does make a massive difference.
People think that Keith Flint is Prodigy, and it's like, well, Liam Howlett's Prodigy, and Keith Flint is the guy who's in the video with the crazy hair, you know, and that's being part of the band, but it's Keith Flint had nothing to do with making the music or writing the songs or anything, you know, like he didn't even come up with the words, you know.
Is this a live gig thing, or are you just sort of planning to release music?
I really want to play live. We've got a great live show. We've got video projections. We've got our costumes. We're all really experienced performers. We've all got command of the stage. I never want to be in a situation where you're playing every 2 weeks, because I think that defeats the purpose and then you get tiresome. But definitely I'd love to play maybe 4 or 5 times a year. I think that's a max for me. We've done a show in Wellington earlier this year. We were almost going to be doing one at the end of the year, but it went away. We have been asked tentatively to do the Napier Death Metal Festival next year, which is really I'm really chuffed if that happens. I'll be really excited. And potentially Full Noise as well in Auckland, which is a grind weekend. I don't know if that's happening or not, but again, that's the kind of gig that I'd really like to do, because it puts us in the mix with heaps of other music.
What are the plans for 2023?
I'm working on an EP. It's called the Demon Seed EP. I've written half of it, and then the other half I haven't made yet, and that's something for Sacristia and I to really work together on, so she can be much more involved in the creation of the sound as well as the vocal performance, because she's so fucking talented. It blows my mind. I'm making a video for Problems, which is one of the songs off of the album from last year. That's one that she features on quite strongly. It's kind of my favorite of the record. It was made at the end, and it's kind of the direction I want to go to. So if you do listen to the Bandcamp, go to the Bandcamp and check it out. It's the last track, Problems. That is kind of like the jumping off point for where the next kind of iteration of us is going to go. Potentially play 3 or 4 events. Like I was saying, it would be great to do the Napier Death Fest and the Full Noise. If that comes to fruition, that would be fucking amazing. And maybe an Auckland show, or a couple of Auckland shows and a Wellington show. And I'm not dissing the South Island, but it's a bit easier for us. 2 of the band members live in the far north of the North Island. So, it's kind of, Auckland is easier for us to play around.
Gotcha.
And that's it, I think.
Thanks very, very much for an in-depth conversation today. It was great. It was nice to finally sit down and have a chat with you.
I really appreciate it. It's been really, I appreciate that you get it, that you can, you into the music, it's very cool.
Oh, it's great. Keep it up.
I will. Thank you.
And thanks for watching.